Hey. All right. Now
Sweet.
to continue the question I was gonna I guess how do you deal with the times when you feel like you can't live in the moment? Like, maybe you're stressed or maybe there's too much work to do. You feel like there's not enough time to like enjoy the stuff you want to enjoy. What do you do then?
So I'm lucky enough to not have too many stressful moments these days. Um, and it's hard to see. I used to be way more stressed, I feel like. And I reflect on it in retrospect and I try to figure out why I was that way and what changed and such. And it's hard to kind of see it for what it was. Um, I feel like a lot of it has to do with a changed or a revised mindset that I have now. Um, and obviously, this is employed or informed mostly by the Buddhism teachings that I'm learning. Um, but it kind of made me realize that I was employing them long before I actually knew what they were. I'm a lot more mentally disciplined. Things that would have definitely stressed me out just a few years ago no longer even you know are no longer even prevalent.
Right.
um I you know I've cleaned up my act nutritionally wise. The ultra processed snacks that one might crave,
Hmm.
um they're not even a thought anymore. The whole idea of craving and being addicted to something or just having the need for something. A lot of those feelings have dissipated for me. Um, but of
Hmm.
course, I do still have moments of not so great days and such. Um, and a lot of that really boils down to money these days.
Right.
I don't have much time to, work a full-time job
Hmm.
with the poetry and the school and such. Um, and sometimes money gets a little tight. Um, and I still deal with cravings and such. Um, you could be craving cookies or something like that, and you go and get cookies, and you might regret it after, and that can lead to stress. Um, the idea of relieving yourself of that craving just resulting in stress that happens sometimes. Um, and the same might go for Lego. Lego is expensive, and I'm seeking that moment to get away from it all that sits in front of me and just focus in on the new set that I'm building. Um, and you click purchase and the order gets confirmed and you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. That was $100.
Hmm.
Um, you should feel the excitement after doing something like that. You might call it like post-purchase clarity or something. It's like, oh, you idiot, you shouldn't have done that.
Hmm.
Um, you should have saved your money or something like that. Um, in moments of stress, um, I really just try to tell myself that I might feel this way now, and that stinks. But as the time will pass and things will change, and I will feel relieved again later, and just take it as a lesson learned or something like that. Essentially, all things must pass because nothing is really permanent in my view.
All right, interesting. What do you think is your biggest fear?
That's a great question. Um, a few years ago, I would have said, "Oh, the artist career that I have never takes off, and I'm never, respected or acknowledged as this famous writer. Um, and my work isn't highly rated, and no one knows about it." I'll be honest, I still kind of fear that. Um, I obviously don't want that to happen,
Hmm.
but I will also say that that does not the I will also say that the idea of that happening no longer scares me as nearly as much as it used to. Um, there, and I find relief in the sense that I will never be able to reach everyone. There
Mhm.
is no fixated endpoint. There is no, final greatest amount that one can reach, one how many copies I can sell, how much money I can make. Um, there's really no fixated endpoint. And rather than that, intimidating me or, you know, causing a sense of annihilation within me, I take that as a form of relief instead. It's like, oh, it's all just kind of, arbitrary in a way. We I'm gonna come back to Buddhism again. We sort of talk about in Buddhism with this way that we live in this modern world, especially in the Western world, the idea that we need to break free of the myth but continue the practice. Um, I'm really beginning to come away with the myth, break away from the myth, that it's all linear, that one day, once we have all of these things, we'll be satisfied and happy. That point does not exist for me. Um, and what I've learned is that that's completely okay. It relieves me and it makes me feel better about the efforts that I am putting into. And the fact that there's no real endpoint allows me to go at my own pace and not feel rushed to do the next thing. And in the end, that results in me making a better product, making better poetry, making better fiction. Um, it's easy to spin it in either direction, but so far I've successfully spun it in the more positive direction. Um, so the idea that I might never fulfill the potential that I have as a writer, of course that scares me a little
Mhm.
bit. That fear will never go away. Any rational person will always have that kind of fear, in my view. Um, other than that, um, what else am I scared of? It's a good question for Halloween. Um, I I recently, fear losing a lot of blood. Um, Red Cross is begging me for a platelet donation. The idea of part of my blood being kept and being given to someone else, of course, for a good cause, that's great. The rest of it coming back into me through a different arm, oh my God, that makes me shiver thinking about it. Um, I might do it for the $40 gift card, but um, but on a more trivial level, blood donation has irked me just a little bit. Um, Losing loved ones, my cat, I don't know where she went, but she's still here. Um, the typical things that one fears, losing the
Mhm.
things and the people you love, of course.
Mhm.
I would say that's about it regarding fears I have.
Right. I guess circling back to this like general idea of like you as like a spoken word artist, would you consider yourself an introvert and an extrovert? Very simple question.
It's a good question. Um, in terms of one or the other, I can't really say. I feel like virtually everybody has at least a little bit of both to them. Um, it depends on who you're talking to or what environment you find yourself in. You might be very talkative in front of your partner or your parents or whatever, but you might be very shy in front of people you don't know or in public or very reserved in public, vice versa for a different person. Um, or you might be, just enjoying the music to yourself at a concert or something like that. Or you might be chatting it up with a whole bunch of people you've never even met at that same show. Um, as far as I go, um, no Buddhism. I'm both, but also neither. That's not a great answer. But it's true for me in that regard because I have my moments of being social and just wanting to speak to everybody and having to be social at work and such and things like that and at school. We're working the Meet UWM event tomorrow. I'm gonna have to be social. I'm gonna have to guide people and give a tour probably. Um, and I choose to be social at concerts and such. I enjoy talking to like-minded people regarding my musical interests and things like that. Um, but I also really enjoy, having the house to myself and just putting a vinyl on the tabletop and just reading or just writing and being with my own company. Um, Silence is nice sometimes. Um, but at the end of the day, I would consider myself more extroverted than introverted.
All right. And I guess what in what way do you think you have grown over the years?
So, in terms of growth, um, this is probably some recency bias, definitely. But I'm gonna turn it back to these Buddhist teachings again. Um, I find that I am more mentally disciplined and I am more determined and I'm more passionate about the things I enjoy. And I'm not afraid to show these passions or be true to myself in these things that I enjoy. But I've also you know, I've really let go of kind of the things that are holding me back in terms of an egotistical sense. Um, I really think about the last relationship I was in. That was definitely a moment, a long, very long moment, multiple moments of necessary growth. Um, Being fixated or attached to the idea of someone else or just someone else in general to fulfill a hole within yourself. Um, because it was becoming to the point where my whole idea of happiness and fulfillment kind of depended on her and what she thought of me and things like that. And what I thought about myself and things like that ended up not mattering. And at the end of the day, what you think about your own image and your own self, um, your own growth is what matters most. And you shouldn't look for fulfillment from another person altogether. That fulfillment should come from yourself. You should have faith in yourself first. It sounds cliche, but you need to love yourself first before anyone else can do the same. Um, and in terms of growth, to sum it up, that's really what I've learned to do. I've learned to love and appreciate myself for who I am, but I also don't let that love kind of consume me and deflect all opinion and blame and such. Um, yeah.
All right. And I guess you mentioned like before, maybe in your younger years, like being like very egotistical and like really like depending on like a relationship, I guess, for like some sort of personal fulfillment. Do you know, could you like give a time on like when did you feel like you were at this like period of like having like a big ego and like needing a relationship fulfillment, and then like what changed and then what how did you grow in a sense?
So I really like to say that I'm more like myself that was very young. Like I'm more like my 6-year-old self or my 7-year-old self than my 14-year-old self, I would argue. Um, my 7-year-old self has a sense of wonder and a sense of innocence, a sense of discovery, just being in awe of simple things. I think children really are onto something when they, you know, pick up a leaf or a rock or a stick or something like that, and they're like showing it to their parents. It's my stick, it's my rock, it's my leaf. Um, Simple, innate things, but they're enamored by it and they're fascinated by it. And I really tried to have a bit more of that as I am now, just being enamored with simple things of life, just appreciating the beauty that's right outside my window. Um, in high school, I, you know, I became someone that I really didn't enjoy being. I felt like I was forced to, fit in and be among my peers. Um, Teachers and parents and myself would all describe me as like, a good person. And I would say to myself, like at like 11, 12, yes, I am a good person. You know, what class do I have next? Whatever internal monologue a 12-year-old has. But then I would begin to wonder, like, I don't have any friends. Where are they all? What am I doing wrong? So at that moment, I thought the best thing I could do was to just be like others, look at people who had all of these friends and say to myself, what are they doing that I'm not? And I sort of became a bit like everyone else in that regard. Um, I, I was looking to be the funny man, the dude who could make the girl laugh or something like that. I was never really that in high school at any point. Um, I was always the dude that did homework for others, but I also did that to just try and like make friends. I wanted people to appreciate me. I wanted to people to see me and see that I was a good person. Um, Over and over again, I was framing my worth in the eyes of others. And what changed in 2022, 2021, finally, after I was single again, was that I learned to frame my worth in my own eyes once
Mm.
again. Um, I think that sums it up in a poignant way.
Do you find yourself having like difficulty like making friends or like being approachable in that sort of way?
Um, I definitely had difficulty with it in high school. I remember, um, I remember my kindergarten teacher once sent a report or a phone call or an email or something like that to my parents saying that Christian's a hugger. He hugs all of us without warning. He needs to stop that. No one wants to be touched like that. And my mom would say, "Oh, he's just loving everyone because he loves everything. That's who he is." Um, Obviously, I don't go around just hugging people randomly now,
Yeah.
but but I do try to have that same sense of just, you know, love and affection for any and everything in this modern world. And it's harder to do that as you learn more things about the universe, as you see um, talking heads on the TV and such. But I really try and retain that as much as I can. Um, you know, I've lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Ooh, let me see if I have another. Oh, that's the wrong page. Another question. What do you think? Oh, that's a good one. What is a sort of quote slash mantra slash word to live by? Basically, you know, any sort of like idea that like kind of like guides you when you're like living.
So um, I still do enjoy the quote, to thy own self be true. Um, you know, just follow your own path and do what makes you feel the best that you can, but be sure to be compassionate for others as well and to just decrease the suffering that goes through. Suffering is everyone else's as well. Obviously, you need to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anyone else. But you've got to just, stick with it and continue to persist. because that way of living, again, there's really no end point, but it's means to an end. And that is what we should aspire to have. There's another quote that I think Leonard Cohen had. I'm gonna try and find it. It's on my phone somewhere. Um, Leonard Cohen. Is it not on here? Why? I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. It's in here somewhere. Let's see. It's towards the bottom. Um, oh, come on. Okay, I think I can remember it actually. Um, be content with um with the fire that you find yourself in, or something like that. Um, or or be one with the predicament you find yourself in, or something like that. It's something along those lines. And I really enjoy that quote because it really just, it aims to say that we should all just ride the wave that life is. Life's kind of in a constant flux, and we should all aspire to just, ride it out, go with the ups, more complete person. So in that regard, we should all just aspire to just feel more,
Mm.
just feel the things that we come across. It's so hard to do that in such a fast-paced and hectic environment that we have. But just take a few moments, a little bit meditative in that regard. Just take a few moments and sit with the feelings that you have, whether that's pain or happiness, and just acknowledge them,
Mm.
something like that.
I guess. What is one goal that you have for yourself?
I have the goal right now to make my grandmother's soup recipe. Uh, um, I have I have a giant blue Hubbard squash. I've never seen it before. I found it at a farmer's market. It's huge. It's like 20 pounds. It was $8 only. It's gonna feed me for days. I roasted it and it smells great, and I need to make that at some point. That's an immediate goal that I have, to make a delicious dinner via my grandma's recipe. Another goal that I have is to, you know, finish my English major. I should be able to do that by the end of 2024 at the latest. Um, I do have another goal to finish the next novel that I'm working on. Not many people actually know about this. I rarely give updates about it. But I am working on another novel, and it's coming together as we speak. And I would ideally like to have that done by 2025, but it'll come around when it does. Um, I'm really excited about it. It's a realistic fiction piece, and it's really going to tell the story about the modern climate and how someone like I might feel in that way. Um, that's a longer term goal I have, um, along with maybe a business minor, and maybe just continuing to learn. Another long term goal I have: learn as much as I can about
Mm.
the world that surrounds me, um, and be excited to do so.
All right, and then another question. This is gonna be a little deep. What
Okay,
is one truth about yourself that you are most aware of?
that I'm most aware of.
Yeah.
I like that question. Um, truth I am most aware of in myself. Um, um, I'm not perfect. I don't know it all. Um, you know, it's hard to go about and be confident and, be yourself when you know damn well that, you're not perfect, and you might never know what everyone that sees you in the student union or wherever, how they perceive you and such. Um, and um, you just have to be comfortable with the truth that you are not this perfect individual that everyone is going to look up to. Everyone's going to be inspired by you and such. Um, and I am perfectly okay with that. Um, Another truth that I have is that you know I'm still learning. I'm still a child in some ways by heart. Um, there are just things and addictions and cravings that I'll probably never be able to shed, like the Lego and the food and such. And I always have those with me, whether they might be grievances or not. They're here to stay probably, and those things I am all right with. I've accepted that. Um, yeah, either of those really. There's more, I'm sure, but
Yeah. You mentioned like sort of like the concept of addiction a lot. Is that like one of your guilty pleasures? Like sweet chocolates, like that type of stuff?
um, definitely used to be to a much higher degree. Um, my taste palette has kind of shifted in some ways. If we want to stick to food, this is on a food sense, on a literal sense, not a metaphorical sense. Um, I love dark chocolate now,
Mm,
like 85%. I used to think that was gross. I no longer really enjoy milk chocolate. Um, and it's odd. It's an odd process of maturing because a Kit Kat, in the spirit of Halloween, tastes the same as it ever did, but it doesn't give me the same feeling anymore.
mm,
Um, it's very interesting to think about that. And I mentioned addiction in a very somewhat lighthearted sense,
mm,
not in the sense of like, a serious drug addiction. I've thankfully have never been down that road, and I'll probably never truly know what that's like in some way, because it's different for everybody. Um, but I do have a fair share of guilty pleasures that, that give me a temporary sense of joy, but then dissipate afterwards. Um, and they can take up rent in my room and also in my head. And those things are perfectly okay. It's the same with the books.
mhm,
Um, you write a book and at some point it has to be done, and you'll have that great feeling of relief that you did this, you created something. Um, and it was so good that you want to do it two more times. And that's how I have three books out, because I like that feeling. Um, and it's easy to become disillusioned with it, especially because I remember the night that 2050 came out back in 2019. I didn't even know it came out. I found it on Amazon. I was like, oh my God, this is real. And I was just blasting wow, what's that song called? That song by Fall Out Boy. Um Centuries by Fall Out Boy. I had that on repeat that night because I felt like a goddamn warrior. It was a great feeling that night. And then Deadly Grievances came out, similar feeling, but not nearly as poignant. And then so did Vernacular Whirlwind. And, in a way, that was kind of just another day. Like, oh, it's out now. Life goes on. What's next?
mhm,
Um, and I still, take peace and solace in the fact that these moments are fleeting. But that doesn't mean I should just quit because, you know, it's greater than the sense of the feeling that it gives me. It's the whole idea that I want to create something that will outlive myself.
mhm,
If I can be connected into this universe in some way, it would be to create that. And that's what continues to inspire me to write. One of the
mhm.
primary reasons.
And I guess what from where you are right now, what is one thing you would like to change about yourself?
One thing I would like to change. Ooh. Ooh. Um, no, there's definitely something I gotta put my finger on it. Um, I wish I was better about scholarships. I need to fill out more scholarships. College is expensive. Um, and I always put that on the backlog of everything I do. I'm always doing something else beforehand. Um, Another thing that I would like to change, I wish that I had I'd say live in the moment and such like that. And I do live in the moment for a good amount of time, but I wish I was just a bit more flexible. Um, I'm very bent. And I sometimes get tunnel vision on the way that I approach life and such, whether that's my eating habits or my work habits and such, and just my daily schedule. Um, I'm always kind of fixated on that until, the semester ends or something like that. And I find it hard to break away from that and adjust from it when I need to and live a little bit. And those are just habits that I need to be more comfortable with. Um, it's okay. I strive for perfection as much as I can, but it's okay to just be consistent in that regard. And that's something that I really need to remind myself more often, um, that I can't let um, perfection be the enemy of good.
Mm. And I guess, what do you think is one of your biggest regrets?
You say what, like what thing? Just one regret?
It could
One
it
big
could
regret?
be as many as you want, just like
Oh, okay, okay. Um, oh boy. What do I regret? Um, Let me think. Um, you know, some people have tattoos that say no regrets. And they might regret that later. Um, in some ways, at least how I see it now, um, of course, there's things that I do regret, but I kind of am in a great place right now. A great place mentally, a great place physically, and because my original thought was I was going to say that I regret basing my college choice off of where my ex-girlfriend was at the time.
Mm.
Um, so I was just starting college and she was in high school. And I picked Waukesha because it was close by and I wanted to stay near them. Um, if I didn't have that attachment, um, I probably would have, you know, been more adamant about my college decision. And I probably would have maybe gone to UW-Madison or accepted an offer from out of state or have gone to MSOE or something like that and would be studying architecture instead. Um, so I do regret basing choices off of, you know, the presence of others. Um, like once again, framing that existence off of my own my own lens. Um, and in some ways, I also do regret, I had a high school crush for a very long time, throughout like the first 2 years of high school, and a part of me still regrets never truly asking her out and such, always being afraid of, rejection and such. Um, Going back to to the previous question, something I'd like to change. I'd like to be less afraid of rejection from publishers and such, and from just people in general. Um, it's all kind of arbitrary. Um, but in a way, I also don't regret never asking her out because we're still very good friends to this day. And if I did, maybe she would have said yes, and maybe it wouldn't have worked out. Who knows? Um, I try not to focus on the hypothetical too much, and just, see life as it is and do what I can to take advantage of it in a way.
All right. Last question. Well, we actually may run this over a little bit while I think of like one it might be like one or two
Okay.
questions.
Well, I
Um,
have to say, I love your questions.
thank you.
These are fantastic. Yeah, for sure.
Um, when what is your sanctuary and slash or when no, that's just better. What is your sanctuary? It could be a person, place, or thing. Doesn't have to be physical. It could be mental. What's your sanctuary?
Nice question. Um, my sanctuary is, if I had to pick one, um, might be my room, the room I'm in right now.
Mm,
It's kind of, tailored to, I've made it my own in a way. It's full of all the Lego. It's full of unique art pieces that I've made. It's full of all of the things I love. Um, and it's a reminder that if, as the world changes by the second outside my window, that this will, at least for now, will always be here in this way. Um, so in terms of a physical space, this would be my sanctuary. Um, and in terms of people, my best friends and family, they're
mm,
my sanctuary. Um, and it's a part of the I love Thanksgiving and Christmas so much because all of these people tend to come back and all coalesce into one again. And there's just a greater sense of joy during that season and a deeper sense of appreciation that everyone has for each other during the holiday season. And I still think we should employ it throughout the rest of the year too. But
mm.
um, it's just a reason why I love the holidays so much is because, um, you know, people start to live in that moment and really um, be one with their sanctuary again. Um, I would also say that the city of Milwaukee kind of is too. Very familiar with the city. I love visiting downtown, all of the neighborhoods. Um, and a cool phenomenon is occurring. The home that I know is slowly getting larger. The distance that I once, you know, saw beforehand was is now expanding, um, becoming more and more familiar with the world around me. Um, home is also, you know, Devil's Lake out west. It's also Upper Michigan. It's also Charleston, South Carolina, or Phoenix, Arizona. There's places I've visited, places that I'm familiar with. Um, home is getting bigger. My sanctuary is getting bigger. Hopefully, the entire world just kind of becomes my sanctuary at some point.
Mhm. All right. I think that is all the questions I have at
Awesome.
the moment.
All
Oh,
right.
and also the Zoom meeting is running around. We got like about a minute, so
Yeah,
time to squeeze this. Anyway, so thank you for interviewing. Very nice.
of course.
I'll send you the videos. One is already finished processing. I'll send you the other one. I'll just like email it through your student email. You know, thanks for doing this. Very cool.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you for thinking of me for this. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'm happy to help.
no problem. And yeah, let me stop this recording before